Coming up next to the stage, Dr. Bruce.
This is the most unprepared I am for a poem, but I have to, as Sensei said, I have to try to park the car. Only he understands that. No one else does. And so I'm gonna just see if we park the car. The end of every semester leaves me questioning the sanity of this world that makes young women believe that beauty is painful, that love is scarce, and that pretty only describes what they're wearing rather than themselves. Because I read their stories about how they feel like lilies, not because clouds wink at them when they walk by, but because their fathers only come around once a year during Easter. Or how they feel like sunflowers, not because yellow fingertips caress the edges of their faces, because the men in their lives only want to use them for their seeds. Or how they feel like roses, not because the color red reminds them of salvation, but because their mothers always seem to just focus on their thorns and they write their insecurities. About how their boyfriends say that their skin is too dark, and so they wear long sleeve shirts to beaches and bleach their skin until whiteness comes screaming down the hallways of their veins. And they write their insecurities about how their family jokes around that their skin is too white. And so they dare the sun to a staring contest, wondering who's going to get sick of looking at the other one first. And they write their insecurities about how they hate their eyes. And so they put in colored contact lenses because no one can see their shivering soul through stained glass windows, and they always say they're too fat. No matter what their actual size is, that their thighs are too big, their hips too wide, they try to erase their bodies by dissolving their self-esteem in the pages of a fashion magazine. And it makes me wonder why the mother of the Mexican girl that sits in the front row hasn't convinced her hija that angels smile every time she blinks and that rainbows must originate somewhere in her laughter. And I want to know why the boyfriend of the white girl that sits in the third row hasn't convinced his girlfriend that the ocean would rather wave at her than the moon, and that her clear blue eyes must certainly be God's favorite color. And I want to know why the father of the black girl that sits in the fifth row hasn't convinced his daughter that sunshine dances across her skin as she gives stars permission to burn brightly around her. And I want to know why the husband of the Asian girl that sits all the way in the back hasn't convinced the love of his life that thunderstorms speak quietly around her because lightning wants to hear her breathe, and that her brown, slanted eyes are the binoculars that he looks through in order to see a better image of himself. And these women never say a word in class, because this world has somehow convinced them that God made a mistake when making them, and so their silence is due to their tongues being stuck to the roofs of their mouths because of how many times they've asked the mirror to smile back at them as they wonder why we've allowed this society to let the devil himself use cameras to cannibalize their essence by creating models that are airbrushed to resemble all their insecurities. And the worst part of it is that the people that are supposed to love them have done nothing but sat there and watched